We'll call the Town of Middlebury Selectboard meeting of Tuesday, March 26th to order. And first item is approval of the agenda.
So moved. Oh, you can have it. I'll do the second.
The amendments to the agenda, we did add some things from the posted agenda. We added a review of some storm stabilization efforts, a contract proposal that Emily will be bringing to us. There's a timeline requirement, so we've had to expedite that if we want to qualify for federal financing or funding. And we added an executive session, correct?
We have a couple of items in executive session, but we also have the addition of item number 11, the appointments of select board committees and board assignments. In executive session, the board will be discussing contracts and evaluation of a public officer.
Okay, so a number of changes from our originally drafted, the one that we published, but all for good cause. So the motion is for the one that we're looking at. So if everyone is in favor of approving the agenda as drafted that you're reviewing right now, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Next is approval of the consent agenda.
Brian, to note that Senator Hardy reached out to us to request our support for Senate Bill 310, which provides additional funding for communities impacted by flooding, in addition to the 50% state match of the town share of FEMA funding. So that all that was very confusing. So the FEMA usually pays 75% of disaster funding. The state matches that with 25% of the town share, 50% of the town share, and then this would be an additional 20% that Ruth is asking us to support. So I don't know if that made it any clearer.
So the FEMA covers 75%, and of the 25% that's the town, the state usually takes half of that. But this bill would make it so it's 70% would be covered by the state. And that's what we have the letter of support for.
Right.
Right. All right.
Could you speak up a little? We can't hear all of it.
Okay.
Okay.
That's a little closer. Did I get a motion and a second on the,
So moved.
Second.
okay. Anything else on the consent agenda that anyone would like to call attention to?
Can I just add one thing?
Absolutely.
Just a note that the Infrastructure Committee meeting in April is moved to Tuesday, the 16th at 9 o'clock, rather than the second Thursday. So if anyone is interested in attending that meeting, it will happen on Tuesday, the 16th.
Okay.
Brian?
Yes.
In the acceptance of minutes, I met with Kathleen this afternoon, the Infrastructure Committee minutes that of their last meeting on the 14th have been published. I don't think they're linked in our agenda, but they're on the Infrastructure Committee's site. I looked for them, but anyway, that's relevant to what we're talking about tonight, so
Okay.
accept those, I think.
There's
Farhad
one-
did have a correction.
Yeah, there is one
Minutes.
correction. In the last select board meeting minutes, and that's the word moved is missing from line 110.
Okay.
Okay. If there's nothing else, all in favor of approving the consent agenda with the one correction on the minutes, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay. So next is citizen comments. Is anybody here for something that's not in the agenda? Yes, Mrs. Peters.
I want to speak about information that comes to the public.
You want to come up so that anybody who's watching can see you and hear you?
I can't hear you, but maybe you can't hear me either.
I hear you fine.
I moved here 60-some years ago and was immediately taken up with New England's town meetings and the ability of citizens to be a part of what goes on, which we've just gone through in the last month here in Middlebury with the town meeting, and I became enamored of it. As a result, I wish the rest of the country did the same thing as you do up here. Anyway, over the years, I learned that there was necessary for a good voter to have lots of good information. And I know you sent out annual reports every year for years and years and years. And it was only about 10 years ago that you quit doing that. But there was an enormous amount of information. And then the public has the ability to go to the town meeting and make a difference and say what they feel about it and do something about it. And that was, to me, real democracy. And I became aware how important good, solid information is to that process. And what you sent out over the years as a report was very, very helpful. And the school boards did that also, showed up in your mailbox, and you had lots of information when you went to vote. So it was a good piece. But the other piece that's gone on along with that is in our county, we have the wonderful institution of the Addison Independent. It's an incredibly good local newspaper. And they attended meetings. I know when I was on boards 20 or 30 years ago, I often found when I picked up the paper on Friday, I already knew what had gone on. But that's not true anymore. Now I can pick up the paper and find out what's going on, and they report unbiased, good, solid information because they send reporters to all the meetings. And you can get an idea what's going on. So when you go to vote, you're intelligent about it and informed. And I think that the loss of the town report is too bad, but I imagine it was probably expensive and you probably wondered if everybody read it or some people put it in the trash can. I don't know, but it was helpful. But the Addison Independent, now that I'm no longer going to board meetings, is my venue for getting information. And as you were aware, with the advent of the internet, newspapers all over the country have folded and gone south. They've closed down and don't no longer publish information. And in our county, we still have our Addison Independent. It's a wonderful institution, and Angela Lynn has shepherded it for 30 or 40 years, and they win awards regularly. You're readers of it also probably and know how well done it is. You can find out all sorts of information about the committees and the government things that go on in our county. So when you go to vote, as you probably noticed after the last town meeting in March, the newspaper was full of information about candidates, about the board meetings, and about what would be on the agenda so that you could find out before you went there. It is my worry that the Addison Independent is probably having trouble. I have noticed it's bothered me for a year. I wondered what was going to happen when local newspapers were folding all over the country. Well, the last few weeks they've been advertising for donations. So although I don't know what their financial situation is, I would like to see this board take up the issue of being partly responsible for the information that comes to the voters. And you could do that by supporting the Addison Independent with no strings attached. And I urge you to take that up as a matter of something that can show up in your budget. I know that substantial amounts of money would probably be involved in order to keep it. It should be an institution that goes on independent of advertising, because I'm sure advertising has gone to the internet. Some people probably still advertise in order to support the paper, but that's probably not enough. So I feel the town should take some responsibility for this dissemination of information to the citizens in this county. My suggestion is that you use the money that's in the local tax that you get for retail sales. You have a huge amount of money that comes in, and you turn over part of it to the bridge every year, but there's large amounts that are left each year. And those are taxes that are paid by everybody that comes here to shop, because the other towns are just as healthily helped by the Addison Independent as Middlebury is. And so those taxpayers would contribute to the tax that sits here. And if you would put $200,000 or $300,000 in the Addison Independent's coffers every year, it would be a boon, I'm sure. They should not have to depend on donations that they ask for in the newspaper. I think it should be something that we take some responsibility for, because it serves us, serves your work, serves what goes on in the county all the time. The information that they provide by sending, they have reporters at all meetings all the time. So when I was part of meetings, I found the newspaper reports were unbiased, thorough, and complete. And it's helpful. If you need information, you can go there and get quite a lot of it. They also are very generous.
The other day, and they gave some guidance under which categories. There's a number of categories available, but they gave guidance under which one and qualify under. So I do have to switch it from what my initial application that's here is listed under, but they said they sort of fit it to the best, most appropriate category anyway, so it doesn't truly matter. But ideally, if we could secure this funding, the tank could go out for construction, go out for bid in the fall for construction in 2025 to sort of make up the gap that SRF funding is not providing at this point.
So the request is going to be $1 million rather than $2 million?
Yeah, the maximum request for this sort of infrastructure project is $1 million.
And just a couple of little items on number 3 in your application, the county. Instead of saying Vermont, you might say Addison County. And they do ask for the staff contact that you spoke with. And then obviously changing the dollar amounts in it. But
That wasn't a required question, Fred. It wasn't a required answer, but I have spoken to 2 staff members since I initially completed this form.
I was just comparing it with the one submitted by the Ilsley where they had that in. I thought you should compete favorably with them. Anyway, no worries.
Emily, my question is off of Fred's. With having 2 applications out for congressionally directed spending, is that okay? How does that look? Are we able to do it both for this and the library? No impact?
This one's different than the Northern Borders grant, where they really recommend that you don't have competing requests from the same municipality. This one is so many different sectors that it doesn't impact us.
Great.
Yeah, it said the one for the library was a different, I remember reading it, but I can't remember what it said.
Different category.
It was a different category, and it was a different congressman, right? Or person?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble
No.
finding it. I remember reading it, but I can't remember.
They
the
ask
details.
if you're asking for money from another congressional
Okay.
representative, so I think they talk. They try to
Hopefully.
spread the money around.
Hopefully they talk.
And the idea is we would combine this with the Northern Borders and have enough so that we could actually move forward with the project?
Ideally, if we got both of them, we would, even if we got one of them, we would be able to move forward. I'm really trying to find the gap. The state revolving fund allows for a $750,000 forgiveness in their funding.
Mm-hmm.
So if we could make up that gap with an alternate funding source, we could really bond for the project and pretty much come out the same when it all shakes out. By the time you build inflation into the project, waiting for SRF funding, it's okay paying the additional bonding interest compared to the SRF funding.
Okay, so that's our only gap?
That's the gap that I'm trying to cover.
Okay. Well, I support the moving forward with this. I guess I need to understand the numbers on that a little bit more, but that doesn't impact applying for this. Anybody have any other questions? If not, pleasure of the board.
I move to approve the draft congressionally directed spending request application to U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders' office for funding to support the town's planned water storage expansion project.
Second.
Moved and seconded. If there are no other questions, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Got some updates on, guess with a municipal paving contract. If you don't.
Municipal paving, so we put, contract out end of February, early March. Received a bid from Pike and a bid from DNF for the effort. DNF was the apparent low bid. They came in at $323,744. We for shim and overlay for a number of roads and also including driveway aprons on those roads. And then Pike's numbers came in considerably higher. I think DNF is in line a little bit more with inflation, but because I have to compare back to what Pike came in last year. Their number went up considerably.
Did DNF submit a bid last year?
DNF submitted, so because of the bonding requirement,
Yeah,
DNF submitted through Champlain last year.
okay. And then there was an adder for them for job management, basically.
Yeah, so they submitted directly this year and their price on tonnage only came in $3 more a ton. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, I forget what Pike, it was the same two bidders last year. I feel like Pike was in like $90 a ton last year, $93, and this year they came in at $119. So DNF definitely kept it much closer to last year's numbers. I think partially because they didn't have to bond for it.
Yeah, I think that might have been, turned out to be a really good recommendation to waive that requirement. That's 2/3 of the quote of Pike. So,
The significant difference that
Yeah.
driveway aprons were, I mean, also you can see the difference there, quite large.
So I have a question. There's quite a bit of material you submitted that's linked here. In the first item, the paving contract addendum number 1, on page 17 of that 22-page document, there's at the very bottom, it says compacted pavement thickness shall be within C inch of the thickness specified on the drawings. And I don't know what a C inch is. Sorry if I'm,
Sorry, I don't have it open, Fred. Hang on.
well, I trust that you'll put in the correct number of inches. I'll leave these with Kathleen to
Okay.
save time. Thank you.
any other questions?
Thank you.
Somebody from the Infrastructure Committee care to make a motion?
Sure. Sorry, I was trying to find where Fred was talking about. And
Yeah, I just saw it.
This is just a typo in Otter Creek's contract.
Typo.
Something like that. I'm sure she'll
I'll move to approve the proposed contract with DNF Paving for $323,744 to carry out the scope of the town of Middlebury's 2024 municipal paving project.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay. On to Class 2 roadway funding.
Class 2 roadway, so I'm seeking approval to apply for the town highway grant, which is funded through V-Trans, and they are right now funding the Halliday Road culvert replacement. After that culvert is replaced, I would like to work on reclaiming and paving Halliday Road, which this grant would help support. They provide $175,000 towards the project, but require a 25% match, which should not be an issue for that project, given the length of the roadway. But at least that way it would get Halliday Road buttoned up for a good amount of time.
I'll move to approve. Go ahead. I'll move to approve the proposed application prepared by Public Works to the state's FY25 Class 2 Town Highway Funding Program for the maximum grant award for Holiday Road.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any questions on this application? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Archaeology resource assessment.
The state clean water revolving fund that we received loans for both Bakery Lane and South Street require us to do, just to be sure that we're not harming archaeology or any historical preservation locations in historical impacts during the course of the project. So we have to do a assessment prior to the project in order to secure the funding for each category, one for archaeology and one for historical impacts. I from talking with our project manager for South Street, he thinks that we've already covered the one for South Street for the historical impacts in a prior phase. So I'll get that guaranteed from the state before we completely leave it off the table. But at this time, I'd like to move forward at least with the 2 archaeology assessments, resource assessments for each project, and then the historical impact assessment for, we're just in the recommendation for Bakery Lane, or for the archaeology. But I want to do the historical just for Bakery Lane, archaeology on both projects. And so the consultants have to be chosen from the state approved list. I reached out to probably a dozen from each category and only got 2 responses. One from Crown Consulting Archaeology, who only does archaeology. And then the other was from Harkin, who they do Harkin Archaeological Associates that do both archaeology and historical impacts. So I am asking approval to move forward with using Crown Consulting for the 2 archaeological components, one for Bakery Lane, one for South Street. I guess in this, I'll leave it there for 7C.
I'll move to approve the proposed contract with Crown Consulting Archaeology LLC for $4,575 to conduct the state-required archaeological resource assessment work for the Bakery Lane and South Street project sites.
Second.
Moved and seconded. So 4575 is for the 2 contracts combined.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah. And are there any
I have a
other
question.
questions? Yes.
I don't recall seeing us voting on either of these before. Have we done that? And I just don't remember it.
Not an archaeological.
So why do we have
They
to do it for
probably
these?
were part of the,
Funding.
well, that, and maybe they were part of a larger package of a contract.
Okay, because it's because of the funding source that we have to do these?
I think this is related to the clean water and the prior projects we were doing where we gotten funding for was through the drinking water state revolving loan fund. So it might, so clean water is the stormwater component, and they might just have different requirements for receiving that money.
Gotcha.
Okay, and the other thing is, we've already torn up South Street and we're going to do an archaeological study. Isn't that a little late?
That was all funded, that was funded through ARPA, so that was different.
Don't bring logic into this, Dan. Come on.
I'm sorry.
I mean, really. most
Give
of
the
this
money to the
work
archaeologist.
is the road prism, so it's been part of multiple times, and
Yes.
it, you know, it's just the hurdle we have to go through.
And if we find a narrowhead, we're done. It's
Yeah.
it's going to be a state monument put over there.
Guess you're getting an understanding why projects take so long around.
Yeah, I know. It's just, yep, okay. Thank you. Just don't ask me to quote any of that.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the motion on the contract, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, Emily, the Bakery Lane Historical?
Bakery Lane Historical, we definitely have to do, and so we did receive a quote from Parkin Archaeological Associates to provide that contract for us for $4,800.
I'll move to approve the proposed contract with Hartgen Archaeological Associates Incorporated for $4,800 to conduct the state-required historical resource identification work related to the project at the Bakery Lane site.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions on this? All in favor of approving the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, there's a moment for you to cover any other public works updates that you might have for us, Emily. Anything
Not-
specific?
So I'm trying to remember, so South Street, we had our first meeting with the contractor. They are looking to start work April 22nd. They came in last week to do the tree clearing that was required to be completed before April 1st for bat habitat. And so they are proposing to gear up with 3 separate crews to hopefully proceed in a much faster fashion this year, but all within one traffic package. So I think it'll be pretty manageable. We'll have a supervisor on site at all times, and I guess if anybody has concerns, they feel free to email me or call me, and we can get it voiced back to the contractor. I think the current construction sequence, the schedule shows them working through end of June. Obviously, weather can be a factor in there, but hopefully we'll have better weather than what we saw last one.
Just a
Then
question
our
on that,
pump station- What's that?
Question on that, Emily. For all of the residents down through on South Street and the hospital and other staff, would it be good to do just a one-pager of what we project to be a schedule and to distribute it down through there, or? I don't know. What are your
Absolutely.
thoughts?
I was waiting to get that out. I didn't want to do it too soon because then I feared people would forget about it. I was figuring 2 weeks before construction started
Yep.
would be a good timeline where it would still be fresh in people's minds so that when they see us start showing up out there, they realize what's going on.
Smart.
Makes sense. Okay. I was just curious if we had a way to inform all the residents.
So we do have, our local resident has already sent out an email to all the residents. He has a chain, Dave Steely has a chain of, I think he has a pretty good number of the residents down there. So
Sounds
after
right.
the meeting, he did send out a blast to all of them, just to give them a heads up. But we'll do one on the town website and just the text text to gov, I forget what it was,
Yeah.
the app that. Crystal did.
Text my gov, I got one the other day.
I got one today.
Yeah, I
Today.
got one today.
Okay, anybody have any questions?
Gotta sign up.
I have signed up. I was
You're on the
probably
phone, right?
one of the first. Yes, David.
Anybody have any questions for Emily? Okay, everybody's getting giddy. I guess we're done, Emily.
So
Thank you.
I have a couple.
Well, then
couple of
ask
que-
it.
I have a couple of questions in relation to this. Emily might want to hang on this. I'm going to ask you a question about infrastructure. When I have my package before me and the contracts, I look at the contracts. I'm not a contract expert. Fred is a contract expert.
No, I'm not.
Well, you've got it printed out and you've got it all red marks on it. My question is, and I know for a long time you sit on the infrastructure, and I'm not criticizing you at all. My question is, does the infrastructure committee review the contracts? Do they go by line on the contracts?
We don't go by them line by line.
Okay, well, I don't have
They
the
are
ability to say what's right or
They're
wrong,
included in the infrastructure package.
just like ours.
Yep. And if there are questions, it comes up in the meeting.
Okay,
But I would say in general, we rely on town staff and engineers to do contract reviews
okay,
because they really are the experts.
okay. I agree. I admire what you're doing. I mean, you were in detail that I couldn't get to. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not criticizing. It's just you've got a lot more background in this than me. So,
Did you have another question?
no, that was it.
Okay,
Thanks, Heather.
thanks, Emily.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Catherine and Kelly with us this evening. Come on up so that we can all
Hot seat.
introduce you to the greater community. You've already had a nice presentation in Yadi Indy.
To Natalie's point.
Yes, yes. So welcome to the community BMP leadership. We're happy to meet you.
Yeah, thank you for giving us a few minutes to introduce ourselves and answer any questions. But we've been working for the past maybe 3 weeks together.
Yeah.
And so we've
Officially.
been,
3
officially,
weeks, yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
And we've had worked together in the past in, again, with the Parent Child Center with Natalie.
Mm.
And we feel like this is a really good match. We have, a lot of boots on the ground already, and we've met with a lot of, we think, key partners. And so we're just going to keep plugging along on that and, kind of keeping through the foundational work that was done previously and maybe putting our own
mark.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether I could just explain this accent and how I end up being in Middlebury, because I'm sure there's some curiosity. I am married to a Middlebury grad who teaches as a professor of the practice, and we've lived here for 5 years. We met in London, brought our children up in South Africa, and about 5 years ago, our son came to Middlebury as a student.
71 cents, consisting of $997,837.24 for account payable and $110,860.47 for payroll for the period of March 13, 24 to March 26, 2024.
Second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Select member concerned, Stan Brown.
I just had, not a concern, but I had the opportunity to see a news clip this afternoon about the stabbing here, which is incredibly sad and I know difficult for the college. But the news clip released the body camera video from the body camera of the police officers. And you watch that video and you'll see how great our police force is. They were really great, disarming, calm. I was really proud, and you can see that the training and the culture that they live in this town. So Chief's left, but I'm giving him a call about that.
Was that on CAX?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
News Channel 5.
Channel 5. Yep.
PTZ.
It wasn't on tonight. It was on at noon. It just walked by and it was,
Interesting. Okay.
This was in the consent agenda, but there are tons of boards and committees with vacancies. And if you're interested in anything about the local government, this is a great place to start. So I encourage everyone to find something that they're interested in and put their name in the hat to join a board or a committee.
Here.
And if you have any questions, as Fred's found out
We always
today,
have
you can
great
always stop by the town offices and ask for more details.
We had someone interested in town agent today.
Wow.
It's a conflict for a select board to be a town agent, so I'm going to have to yield my
You've been it for years.
3, I don't know. Anyway, I would echo what Dan said about the stabbing incident and how fortunate we are to have Chris Mason and others who handle this so well. I think the town's feeling of security is terribly, terribly important. And being able to understand what happens from this so that there isn't fear, so that, you know what will happen with this individual. If people, if these kind of incidents happen and people are released in the community, there needs to be some sort of information about that so that people continue to feel secure here. Very important.
Mhm.
So, congratulations or thanks to the police department and others who are sensitive about the security issue. It's on a lot of people's minds.
Rod?
Yeah, well, I was going to touch on what Heidi was saying about the gentleman I mentioned in my comment. I know we can't force them to go into the shelter if they don't want to. They are paranoid about they can't stay with people. But I'm so afraid of when it's harsh weather like this and they're on the streets. And some people are sleeping in the car. At least they have a car, but I don't think this gentleman has anything. He's just on a wheelchair. If you see that the bag he carries, a duffel bag is like this big. It doesn't fit in my aisles. That's how big that is. And he carries all over the town. He's wheeling all over. In the snow, the other day I saw him. So I know we can't force them, but there has to be a solution. If there is a mental health issue, you can't leave them out in the elements, right?
But isn't he is staying in the shelter at night. He's just wandering there during the daytime with all of his stuff. He has appeared over at the church several times under.
He just got in.
Right.
I've seen him for at least a month and a half or so.
Oh,
Right. I think Heidi was saying his concern is leaving his things at Charter House, which is why he travels with it.
Okay.
That was my understanding.
right.
But anyway, I
It's horrible. There's
definitely.
no easy solution.
Heather?
Did we set an agenda for our retreat?
Yeah.
We did.
I don't think so.
No.
Can we include that?
We did not include it. We were, the tentative thought was to see what happens with the library bond vote. Because if that goes through, or if it doesn't go through, either way, we're going to have a
Okay, I
lot
remember.
on our plate.
Okay, thank you for that reminder. I was just thinking if there was any room in that meeting to just talk about the fund for businesses.
Sure.
I'll put that on the list.
That was all.
It's now a 6-day meeting.
Andy?
Lots to talk.
Yeah,
How is that
nothing
different
this
than from
evening.
any other?
Okay. Just a quick, this afternoon, had an opportunity to listen to and meet Bob Ortmeyer, our new head of Porter. And it was enjoyable. So he took over when Tommy Thompson had to step down for family situation. But he also runs the Elizabethtown Hospital, administrator for that. So it was interesting, enjoyable to hear the good things that are going on up there. Uh, Obviously, healthcare has got a lot of challenges. And so he had an opportunity to share it with some of us. So just welcome him to the community.
Great.
We have need for two executive sessions. Got to figure out why we're going in and out of these. But if somebody could take us into the contract negotiation session, that would be great.
I move to find that premature general knowledge regarding negotiation of a contract would clearly place the town at a substantial disadvantage because the discussion will divulge the town's position on the contract provisions to be negotiated.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye. I further move to enter into executive session with inclusion of the town manager and assistant town manager to discuss the negotiation of a contract allowed under Title I, Section 313A1A.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it is 8:45.
On the
We're going
nose.
into
We're good.
Okay.
executive session.